Hello, hello, time for a video. So, introduction number 68, very good. So, as we say, a very good essay starts with a very good introduction, so let's have a look and see what your introductions are. What's the topic? Children learn best by observing the behaviour of adults and copying it. Do you agree, yes or no? So, to paraphrase sentence 1, it is often said that, according to some, it has been argued, many ways that you could say that. Children, a child, you can make it a genitive case, a child's. Learning. I've seen a few people trying to use different synonyms, which we'll come to in a bit, which doesn't quite mean this the same thing as learning. Through watching, by watching, observing, watching, imitating, or mimicking, instead of copying. Do you agree or not? Reason 1, it's difficult to understand for children what behaviour to copy and what not to. And I would expand reason 1 in the second body paragraph. So for this essay here, my personal introduction, I disagree because it's difficult for kids to understand what behaviour is good and what is bad simply by watching adults. They have to be taught. They cannot simply observe. So this therefore means that you have to be very careful around your children so they don't pick up bad habits, etc., bad behaviour. If they see you beating up your wife, then in the future they may not have such rewarding relationships with their own girlfriends or partners or husbands or etc. Yeah, so we will see. So according to some, watching through learning and imitating adults is the best way for a child. Okay, I disagree because it's difficult for children to understand what behaviour to copy and which not to, which may cause problems to them in the future. A second one here, I knocked it up and put it in the channel. It's a common belief that the best way for children to learn is by watching and copying the behaviour of adults. In my view, this idea is true up to a point, and I'd expand on that, what that point is, and what subject or behaviours it is that they are copying. So that introduction, so it gives some idea. So I'm saying, okay, I agree up to a point, and I'll explain, and what the subject or the behaviours, what exactly is it that they are copying. Okay, so some people, but now very good paraphrasing, most effective instead of best, yeah, because we've got children learn best, so that's good. Some people believe that the most effective way of learning for children is through imitating adults' behaviour. That's very good. I strongly agree with the statement because children are difficult to follow what we're instructed to do, and they can pick up what. That's very good, very good, very good introduction. Excellent. Nothing for me to change there. Some argued. Well, it's either some have. So if it's present perfect, some have argued, or some argue, make present simple. Now, upmost, that does not mean the same thing as the best way or the most effective way. I don't even know if it's a word. The upmost way of learning children. Well, it's not learning children. Children learn, you teach. How to cope with their difficulties. Where does it say that? It doesn't say that. Where does it say that? Is emulating. Now, that's a very good verb, a very good word choice. Their adults? You mean their parents? Behaviour? It's not just adults. It's particularly their parents. I surely agree with this assertion. Why do you surely? Why don't you simply agree? Due to the need of differentiation between, you mean they can tell the difference between right from wrong. Due to the need of differentiation between right from wrong, which would be essential. Like immature offsprings is not the same as children. Nobody would say, "Oh, my immature offsprings were behaving very badly today. Oh, how many immature offsprings do you have?" Nobody would say that. And what does that mean? Well-rounded. What? You mean that the parents are fat? That they're well-rounded? Or well-rounded how? Meaningless. So, teaching. Children learn, you teach. Upmost. So, that needs a bit of work there. According to some kids, well, okay, I would try to avoid using kids as much as possible because it's a bit informal, but kids see and mimic their parents' manners. Manners and behaviour are pretty similar, but not directly interchangeable. And it's said to be the most efficient way to educate them. Well, you're not educating them if they simply see and mimic their parents. It said children learn best by observing. So you're not educating them if they're simply watching you. You're not educating them. And so again, learning children. It's the children who learn by watching. If you have to tell them things, it's teaching. So you have to change that around in the same way. For children to learn. So it doesn't talk about education, it's talking about them watching. Because if you were educating them, that would be something else. I agree with the statement because most not role models, you folks sometimes do, asking any questions. Okay, that part's good, but it's a little bit off. Because they're not being educated. The idea is that they learn by observing you. Getting information, not the same thing. Analyzing. They're not analyzing. They're simply copying or imitating. That's what they're doing. I personally, you simply mean I. There's no need for repetition. I completely agree. And assert that adults' behaviour can play a vital role in children's learning. So, get information, analysing, not the same thing. Many people argue adults' behaviour is highly beneficial in forming children's deportments. Nobody uses that. Nobody uses that. I can see, when you go to a thesaurus and you type in a word and you get a list of synonyms, not every synonym, as I keep telling you, is interchangeable. Not every synonym is interchangeable. And behaviour of matures, you mean their parents. Behaviour of adults, but obviously it would be their parents because that's who they would be around. Adults' behaviour is highly beneficial in forming children's deportments. So you've turned it the wrong way around. And the behaviour of matures could be a decisive factor in the behaviour formation. Well, it's not young persons, is it? A child is not a young person, not strictly speaking. A young person could be a teenager. A child is a child, childish child, not young persons. That could be teenagers. Well, I assume. Why would you assume? Either you think or you don't. The most effective things that influence young persons, children. I don't think that young persons in general are watching cartoons. It's the kids. I'm not really sure what you're talking about. Cartoon characters. Okay, there is an opinion asserting that the most effective way that children learn is emulating and observing their adults. Well, it's either adults or their parents. Adults in general. I completely agree. Mainly Because adults play, well, they don't kind of play, they can act as a good role model for them. Okay. According to some, children learn by following their parents. Yeah, good. Following and copying. Okay. Believe this notion is true because children spend much time on their parents. Well, they spend the time with, I don't know about on, their parents, and they usually take their parents as role models. Very good, very good. Frequently argued. No, it isn't. Where does it say that? Saying something is not an argument. An argument is when you are trying to convince somebody else to change their opinion. It is frequently argued that the process of learning in children is done by monitoring their parents. That's strictly, again, that's not strictly speaking the same. They are simply watching. Monitoring means something else. You know, that means taking like notes and making records. All that it says is that they see adult behaviour, presumably their parents, and copy it, because that's what kids do. That's how they learn to speak, by copying what they hear in the world around them. In my view, although parents can play a major role in this regard, the effects of society and peer pressure are of equal importance, if not more. Okay, that's good. Okay, interesting to see where that essay goes. Sometimes argue that children acquire knowledge and skills. Again, not strictly speaking the same. Not strictly speaking the same. They're not acquiring knowledge and skills, really. They're simply copying adult behaviour. So, you know, if you as parents or adults in general in society behave in a certain way, then, you know, because of the environmental impact, they will copy that. That's all it's saying. Not necessarily knowledge and skills. In most excellent way. In most excellent way? Well, if you're using a superlative, you need an article. In the most excellent way. Excellent, maybe most efficient, effective. I don't know about excellent. When they perceive, well, they don't perceive. It's not about perception as such. They simply copy parents' actions and imitate them. I partially agree, as parents are role models for, but not of, for their offspring, but experimenting, exploring through playing or through play, equally important in the learning process. Okay, that'd be interesting to read that one as well. Now this one far too long for an introduction. I mean, look at it. What is it? 104 words for introduction. Nah. Some children argue. No, they don't. They simply say. They don't argue. They say. Invariably. Well, it doesn't say that either. It just simply says they, you know, what's it say? Again, right. Often said, children learn best observing the behaviour of adults and copying it. That's all it says. So, one thing, far too long. And they don't subconsciously. No, right. How can you consider something subconsciously? You consider or you think that is consciously. Subconsciously is below the level of the surface. So how can you subconsciously consider? So why would you even say that and consider that as a model based on, well, they don't consider. They don't think that, oh, this is a model based on which I shall shape my future behaviour. They don't do that. So, far too many unnecessary words, unnecessary ideas. We don't need it. Children look at the way in which their parents are behaving and they don't consider anything of their future character. They simply copy the behaviour. Say what it says. Don't add anything to it. I believe there's a definite link, so we have an opinion. We don't need that in the introduction. That should be in your a paragraph. And again, we don't need this either in the introduction. That should be in a body paragraph. Anyway, parents, future go take shape. Well, that's just one conclusion. To draw, huge influence of parents on their children's behaviour. Well, we don't really need that because you're basically saying the same thing. But there's a definite link. I mean, you could cut half of that out. I believe there's a definite link between parents' behaviour and their children, as parents' behaviour and their children. Cut that out, as there is a huge influence of parents on their children's behaviour and personality. So that would work fine. Often argue that the process of taking, you mean learning, that's not the same thing, would best form by watching and iterating. Well, it would be reiterating, doing it again, or copying. But that's not the same thing as copying, not the same thing. It seems conceivable that this approach would be helpful. But does that mean that you agree or that you don't? Because that's what you're being asked. It doesn't say, to what extent do you think this is conceivable? It says, do you agree or disagree? So you need your clear opinion. So, okay, in light of some reasons, which will be so. This is one of those empty sentences that I keep telling you don't use. It tells me nothing. Over some reasons which will be discussed in detail. Get to the point. Be clear. I keep on having to explain this. I shall probably do so once again. So, right. I will say no more. You can read. So, some are good, some not so bad. Some could do with a little bit of work for sure. Some of them pretty good. What I can say though is there's one or two where you're using, you are using what you think are Band 7+ language, but what you're doing is you're using it inaccurately or inappropriately. And if you do that, that's what's going to happen. So, only use it if you're 100% sure it's interchangeable, that it works and it's appropriate. If not, that's what you're going to get. So, that's what I've seen with one or two of these, trying to paraphrase, but it's not really worked. Okay, so, and that one far too long. So, keep that in mind. So, I'm going to make a video in a bit for the winner of the draw for Intro 67. Someone submitted an essay. I have it here. I wrote a Band 9 example. I will share that as well. And we'll post another topic number 69. Okay, see you later.